Hello and welcome back to Read Becca for my weekly bookish chat on everything I read, everything I'm currently reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. So I did read a good amount. March Mystery Madness is going well for me. So I will start with the one that I kind of started a little early, but I'm still counting it for March Mystery Madness. It's the fourth Frida Klein book, and that is Thursday's Children by Nicci French. So this is a series following Frida, obviously, who is a psychiatrist that kind of helps the police, or she's been roped into it, and she always turns into this amateur sleuth who is off investigating the crime without the police. So that's always been a fun premise on its own and kind of tropeful, right? This particular book I think was my favorite of the series because it sort of moves away from some problems that I've had, mainly her not talking to the police. So in this one, it's totally overturns that. She's constantly going to the police with information and like trying to get them more involved. So this story follows a friend of Frida's from the past coming to her with her own teenage daughter. So Frida has a very lacking backstory, I think, throughout the novels. We don't know much about where she came from. And this book really fills that gap. It gives her a lot of connectedness. We come to understand who she is as a person through her background very much more than we have so far. So I think that was also a strength. But I think the biggest strength of this one was her going to the police and actually like communicating, which is always our curmudgeonly hero or investigator's issue, right? That's so common throughout mysteries. But Frida here is helping this childhood friend of hers with a problem with her teenage daughter, and that this friend is kind of naive. She just expects Frida to sort of fix the situation and wash her hands of it. And Frida is trying to impart that it's a lot more complicated what she does in counseling people than just putting a band-aid on it and fixing it so they can walk away and be fine. It's going to be a process. But this woman is very resistant to that. So this all sets off Frida winding up investigating back in her own hometown. She sort of heads home, more or less, finds out there's a reunion going on. So she gets reconnected through this one person having reached out with her entire history, with the people she grew up with. And there are things a lot of people there don't really want dredged up. They don't want to talk about and they don't want to face, even though everyone is acting excited that she's kind of headed back home. So I think that's where I would leave the plot. There's a major mystery element, but without even saying what it is, the key part of this mystery that's so compelling is she's pulling in all of these old faces from her life and trying to remember those old connections. And this was the most connected that I have felt her. She's always so distant from people, even though so many people try to weasel their way into her life and like be a part of her day to day. In this one, these people felt very close to her, and she's realizing that there was always a distance there. So I think that aspect of her interconnectedness with other characters was really, really important. She's also going through something where the people in her life now see a major transition in who she is and her openness with them that we haven't seen from her before. But I think from a character standpoint, this was my favorite, and that's probably why it overall is the best book in the series for me so far. So I would say very heavy content warnings to this for both rape and suicide. Those are elements of this story, which I think was a little bit heavier than even some of the gruesome murders that we've seen in the past. These were really difficult elements. They weren't done overly graphic in any way, but they are definitely present there, and they have major impacts to what's going on in the plot of the story. So I think that's it for Frida Klein at number 4. I really enjoyed it. Definitely my favorite from the series, probably like in the 4.5 star range, which has been quite a bit above them. They're always entertaining reads, and I could not put this one down. Then I read my next pick for March Mystery Madness, and that is Simon Brett's The Clutter Corpse. So Simon Brett, I think, was a TV writer possibly before he was writing mysteries, so that seems to be a big trend right now with Richard Osman and Robert Thorogood having their series out. And this was so visual in how it describes things that I think that was a real strength here, and it's such a short novel to really accomplish that. It's great. So anyway, what's the book about? This is about Ellen, who is kind of an older woman. She has adult kids. She's running her own decluttering business, and obviously she is our amateur sleuth here. So Ellen is someone who's really connected with people. We start the book almost by going through a day in the life with her as she's going on different jobs. We're hearing sort of the problems of certain systems she has to deal with momentarily as she's annoyed about how they've assigned her jobs. But she also is a bit of an empath. She's taken some courses on psychology to get better at connecting with people because that's such a big part of her job. And so we're seeing her reach out to people that she just follows up with, that she just checks in on from day to day to make sure they're continuing to be healthy and mentally okay with the changes that have been made through her decluttering, those sort of things. And so we see her as almost a cozy sort of character, because in cozies, a big focus is placed on the support and the community surrounding our main character. And so that's a big element here. What is different from a cozy in this case is that while we don't know the person who dies, in cozy cases, usually they're just a character who's a complete side character introduced in order for them to be killed. Here, it's not someone we know initially, so that kind of fits a cozy, but we do get backstory that really draws us into understanding who this person was and where they came from. So I don't think that fits a cozy quite so much. You definitely gain a sort of attachment for this person. However, what goes on is exactly what you would think. Our main character is going to a hoarder house to clean up, and in the process finds a body. And so it goes from there. She's an amateur sleuth. She has sort of found a connection with this hoarder house and the person who died, and starts unraveling threads through that. She is someone that, of course, throughout the course of this, the police are involved, but she's not as directly connected with them. So we don't see very much of the actual police investigation part. It's purely Ellen's investigation, and she really sweeps us along. There's not a ton of action to this, but it's moving along at a clip, I would say, and it is so short that I think I sat down and read this in 2 sittings. So I really enjoyed this, though. It kind of surprised me how much I enjoyed it, because it was so gripping and I hardly wanted to put it down. But I did have kind of one really major problem, and that is to do with our characters' sort of backstory of their marriage. And in this case, her husband was mentally ill, and so I'm sure that's a major part of where her characteristics surrounding her empathy come from. But her husband really didn't want them to have a child, and she kind of went forward without any regard for his wishes, and things she did really border on reproductive coercion. That was very icky. It toes up to the line, but doesn't quite cross it for me, and it was just such a turnoff. So I definitely had real problems with that, and the fact that it did kind of not cross the line entirely meant I was able to carry on. But yeah, it was really stuff that bothered me a lot. So I did really enjoy this with kind of one big problem, but that was fairly brief. I would say there are obvious violence triggers, but I would say domestic violence and suicide are pretty solid content warnings for this one. Then I read a graphic novel, and that is Hayao Miyazaki's Shuna's Journey. Now, this is a big name if you are in the anime world at all, but if not, this is the person who does all of the Studio Ghibli works. And this is sort of a reprint, or it's newly translated to English, but this was so gorgeous. I will show you some art. It is all in lovely watercolor. So it clearly is kind of an earlier work for Miyazaki. This was printed in 1983 originally in Japanese, and this is the first time coming out in English. So I spotted this on the YA new releases shelf and just snagged it. This was lovely in terms of the art. The art is so cool, and it's about capturing all these different settings. The story was a little lacking, though. I mean, the story was fine. It wasn't really anything special. It's very simple and it feels very folkloric. In the afterword, Miyazaki explains the inspiration for this. That makes that very understandable, because this is based on a folk tale from Tibetan history about the fact that they got barley as their main crop from Western Asia. And the folkloric tale is very similar to the story here, where we are following a prince in an impoverished kingdom who just wants better for his people, and one day he encounters a traveling person who has these golden seeds that will clearly make him prosperous, and if he can only get more of those, he will be able to have, you know, the well-being of his kingdom completely lifted. And so as a result of that, he starts traveling west, because they're going to be at the west to where the edge of the earth is. So on his journey, he's got his lovely Yakul here, who's his mount. The whole way he's goes through all of these different environments almost. It changes constantly. But he's continuing to journey west, and he's seeing that the world is different from where he's from. He encounters a city and realizes that there's so much there to see, but then he sort of comes across the bad elements within the city. And there's a pretty major aspect of slavery and manhunters throughout this that provide the sense of threat. But overall, he just keeps journeying it until, you know, finally he gets to the farthest west. But there's sort of a price to pay for taking that bit of nature from where it belongs. So I think it engaged with environmental themes there, definitely. And it really had an interesting second half, more so than the first half. But overall, it felt very, very simple, really easy, quick story to read. I do think the art was really, really lovely, and that was mostly what I was in it for. So this was a great read, but not super memorable. Then we are on to my currently reading mountain. It's gotten a little bit out of control, folks. So just rapidly, I am almost 50 pages from the end of Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and this is really great epic fantasy. Then we have Nona the Ninth. I'm actually audiobook and reading this because I started it and realized pretty immediately that I probably did need the print, and I checked and my library did in fact have it on the shelf. So I'm very happy I was able to get a print copy, because this is really complicated, like science fantasy, and this one seems maybe almost even dystopian as well. So yeah, that one on audio. And Charms and Chocolate Chips is my next March Mystery Madness pick. I literally just sat down and got a third of the way through last night, so this will be a very, very quick read. Then my short fiction stuff, I have Tales from Gavagans Bar still, and I have The Best of World SF Volume 2 still. So, as well as I started my Mammoth, which is Byzantium by Stephen R. Lawhead. And the writing is so good. I'm so glad that I did pick this up, because the writing's really drawn me in. And then I am reading an ebook that I keep failing to mention, but I'm about halfway through The Light of Eagle Friend. And this was a story that I beta read, actually, so this is the final book. I've already read the beta version, but I'm reading the actual published version now. And really, really solid edits, I would say, to what I read in the beta. So that's been a good experience to wrap up that series. So that is everything that I'm reading for this week. I haven't been watching very much. I do think I've gotten under 60 episodes of Bob's Burgers remaining, which is a lot. That's been a long-term project to try and watch through all of Bob's Burgers. So I'm finally getting there. I just had a busy week generally, so most of it was work. In fact, like pretty late evening work a couple nights. So I haven't had that much time to watch things and even read. So I did do a lot of different random stuff. So my attachment came off on my tooth. So when you have Invisalign, you have to have these little bits that sort of stick out to let the aligner tray push on your teeth and everything. So they move right. And it came off. So it's not a big deal, but it's just an annoyance to have to go take care of that. And our orthodontist is so funny, but he keeps like being like, don't be scared about this, like because I have big gaps on the sides of my teeth right now where they're making room for stuff. And so like if I turn my head, you can see big gaps there. But I'm not really that freaked out about it because I've already seen, we're at week 20, and the front teeth on the bottom where I do have the aligners already, they're almost straight after years of being completely overcrowded. So my orthodontist keeps thinking I'm gonna freak out about the fact that I have these big gaps, and I've already seen how much things can move, that it doesn't really worry me. We're less than halfway through the treatment, so I've got plenty of time. If at the end we're still like this, then I'll be worried. But that was, one thing that was taking up time. I also had, completely by luck, on a random check sort of this furniture that I wanted. So I long-term have been wanting a ladder style bookshelf for my bedroom. I don't have any bookshelves in my bedroom. I have one small narrow spot that really could fit one. So I've been looking for that style for just a certain idea, or a general idea of what I wanted, and have never been able to find one that was in the style that I wanted, a size that will fit that narrow spot. Usually they're like twice as wide as I had. And they just always were, okay options, or even they wouldn't fit just outward. They're too long because I only have so much room for my bedroom from the wall to the bed to fit something really small. So I've looked for this for years, never been able to find one that exactly fits, so I just never ordered one. So I found one that was basically exactly what I was looking for, and in exactly the right size. It lines up perfectly with the spot that I had. And so I got that. And then I had a random thought to look for something else that I've been looking for. That was benches for out on my front porch. I've been looking for years again, and I want a backless, really plain wood, and had never been able to find what I wanted. There were, without paying an exorbitant amount for real wood, the IKEA benches are kind of a really generic meh version of what I would like. And I always found stuff like that where, I could probably get this cheaply and get something really super generic. But finally I found the bench that I wanted, that I've been looking for the whole time. It's all wood, it's really nice, and it's, it looks a little bit more than just the super duper plain straight lined wood ones. So it's got a little character to it, I would say. So I had a lot of furniture to put together that was very tiring, even though it wasn't terribly much. After having last weekend done all of the pulling ivy out of my garden bed alongside the house, my body was sore from being in kneeling and sitting positions in all weird angles and holding things, pulling things. Yes, it was a body heavy week for that. So I was on sort of opposite ends between work taking up a lot of time and just random stuff like putting together furniture taking up a lot of time. So it's been a very cram-packed week of stuff. So low-key weekend definitely for me this weekend. I guess that is it for me today, other than recommendations. So my first recommendation is Sam from Thoughts on Tones did a great video essay in response to this article that has come out from some guy who was supposedly a past major booktuber, talking through how book talk and booktube are really these shallow, fraudulent spaces. And I'm obviously not behind that myself. I don't think Sam is either, based on what she had to say. But she tackled it in a different way than most other people that I've seen, and talked about a couple of aspects that I haven't really seen other people mention. So I really liked that. So definitely check out her video. I think the main things she tacked on that I thought were unique to the discussion were about gender and how men critiquing what is dominantly a woman's space, often to delegitimize it. In the same way, she also brings up the prestige of literary readers, and obviously there's an aspect there of reading for entertainment versus reading for academic reasons, I guess. And so I think she tacked on that as something special or different about being a literary reader, and feeling that exclusive and status aspect of reading. And the other one is about the algorithm that she mentioned, how what you pick is really you curating your own feed, right? And so you can change. There's plenty of people within that space who probably are doing the thing you're looking for as, a higher brow reader or whatever. But if you're only seeing those sort of fake, light, contentless videos, then it's based on what you're choosing, not necessarily what's out there. So I think that was a really great critique to get across. The other one is just an author chat with Kim Stanley Robinson on the Locust channel. So I really enjoy his discussion because it was a casual chat that let him sort of range across topics. And I think that was just fabulous. It was much more than him sitting there promoting a book. So very much enjoyed that. So that is it for me today and this week. I'm hoping for, as I said earlier, a quiet weekend. It's quite dark and overcast, so I will be staying in and cozy and reading. Thanks so much for watching. It's supposed to rain for 4 days, so I grabbed some seeds to throw out along the tree line. Hopefully some of them will take. You can see my baby croquis are coming up. I had hoped to get this all cleared up before, so this is the mostly cleared away area. And down here, we still need to clear all this away. Got lots of leaves, little baby croquis, and all the dead ivy to get rid of. Yep. Rainy day. Ripley's observing the tippy taps of ice bowls sleeting coming down like crazy outside. What is happening, Rue? What's in your mouth? Do you have a mouse mouth? Hey. Where are you? You got your mouse? Oh, Rue, your face is so dumb. I can't even take it. So I'm getting ready to start week 20 of my Invisalign treatment, and I just wanted to show you because you can't tell as much from pictures of my teeth that I have, but from the trays side by side, you can see I'm almost straight in the front already at week 20. This is week 1, and you can see they were very, very uneven, and this is week 20. Yeah, that's crazy. So there are big gaps in my teeth right now that I know are really showing up in my videos, but yeah, this is massive progress. And I haven't even started on the upper teeth yet.